Hello and welcome to Whatcha Reading. I am your host. My name is Brenna and I am the advisory supervisor here at the Skokie Public Library. Today I am joined by Amy. Amy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Amy Giacomucci. I am an advisory specialist here at the Skokie Public Library.
And we are so excited to talk to you about books today. We have 6 books total. We'll talk to you about what we have read, what we're reading now, and what we're reading next. So let's get started. Amy, would you like to start with our first book?
Yes, I would. So the book that I have just read is Rakesfall by Vajra Chandrasekera. It is a Sri Lankan epic fantasy book. It is a little bit experimental. It takes place over multiple parts. It follows 2 people who are different characters in each of the parts. It's a little bit in sort of a Cloud Atlas style way, where it's the same people, different timelines, different situations, different worlds. A lot of it is about sort of the world that they're living in. It's sort of different world building in each one. And in each of the 12 parts, one of those 2 characters, who in each one has a really different relationship to each other, dies. And it is really one of those books where you have to kind of read it and go along with what's being said and let it be a little bit confusing until it kind of coalesces into something really interesting and meaningful, which I personally love. And something that the author has said about it, and I'm a little bit paraphrasing here, is that it's for people who like their sci-fi very twisty, like you're pulling a worm out of something and then you keep pulling and there's more worm.
Such a disturbing example.
Mm-hmm. And also kind of indicative of the writing style, where it is a little bit strange and a little bit disturbing, and then every once in a while it's very funny in a very modern and interesting way, sort of an urban fantasy kind of mix of the mundane and the fantastic. His other book, The Saint of Bright Doors, has this whole thing where the character keeps getting spam emails, and that's also an epic fantasy. I really like this author. This is his 2nd book. I really recommend looking into it if you like a kind of experimental urban fantasy science fiction title.
Does it feel like a short story? You said each section kind of changes a little bit and someone dies.
Yes. Okay. So something really fun about it is that the first 3 parts of it are published online as short stories. I don't remember what they are called, but the first one is essentially the narrator of that section is the audience of a TV show that is about the 2 characters, and the audience is even collectively kind of arguing about what the TV show is and what it means and whether it's fiction or whether it's just sort of a reality show. And that is available to read online. Look up Vajra Chandrasekera. It is certainly on his website. He has a pretty good website.
Sounds like a very unique book.
Yeah, it really is.
Awesome. So my first book is called Happy Land by Dolen, Perkins-Valdez. And this is one of my favorite historical fiction authors. She had a book a few years ago called Take My Hand that I was just obsessed with. I recommend it all the time to this day. So I was so excited when she had a new book out. And it takes place in 2 different timelines. So one of them is post-emancipation years. There's a group of formerly enslaved people who build a community in Appalachia. Mm-hmm. And it's based on the kingdom, the African kingdoms of kings and queens. Side note, this was a real community that existed. So it's based on a true story, which is really neat. So the main character in that timeline is Luella, and she is the queen of Happy Land. And it's about her, settling into this land and building the community, and also marriage and parenthood and relationships and all that type of stuff. And then in the present day, we have Nikki, and Nikki is going to North Carolina to visit her grandmother. And she doesn't know her grandmother very well, but her mother had a huge fight with her many years ago, and they don't talk, and she doesn't know why. But as she gets to know her very plucky grandmother, she finds out kind of what the story was. So it is a book that deals with some heavy themes. It's talking about the impact of slavery across the generations to the current day. But it's also a book with a lot of joy in it. The community that these folks have built and the connections that they have is really beautiful and really interesting to read about. And I just love the way that the 2 different timelines came together at the end of the book. So that is Happy Land by Dolen, Perkins-Valdez. So what are you reading now?
Okay, so what I'm reading now is Notes from a Regicide by Isaac Fellman.
What a great name.
Right? Yeah, and I think something that's pretty good about it is that a title like that is sort of a foregone conclusion, right? Like, you kind of know what's going to happen. It's a sci-fi dystopia novel in genre and in time period, but the way that it reads is a little bit like a sort of historical fiction epistolary almost, because the dystopia that they're in is very much more of a like the tech has gone backwards, and they are building these like specific communities, and sometimes they kind of just talk about how there used to be better, different technology, more complex technology, and now there just isn't, and they're working their way back towards that. But the thing about it that I am really enjoying is it is about being able to make a different connection with someone who you have a specific relationship with after they have died. Because the premise of the book is that the main character is a journalist who, after his parents' deaths, is going through his father's journal of, you know, his entire life before he killed a king. And as he is doing this, he is learning more things about his parents who adopted him. He is trans. His parents are also both trans. The main character, Griffin, was in sort of an abusive home. So his chosen non-biological parents met him in his teens when he was kind of already a person in the way that teens are, but like has not been able to become the person he is going to be as an adult yet. And they kind of just take him out of that situation and raise him. And it just sort of becomes clear how much he loves them and also how much he doesn't know about them by virtue of like coming into their lives later. And then to be able to kind of go through this journal that was written with the intended audience of not him, like not his son, allows him to kind of interact with his parents in a new way, even though they are not alive and alongside him. And I just find that fascinating.
I love a complicated family relationship story and a coming-of-age novel, so that has a lot of cool things going for it.
Yeah, and he is also doing this as an adult with like an established career too. So it goes back to these like narratives of reflection about his own life, reflection about his parents' lives, his best recollections of what was told to him as a child, and also just what the last few years have been like since he has entered adulthood. So that is Notes from a Regicide by Isaac Fellman. I'm really enjoying it, and I am really looking forward to getting to the part where they kill a king.
Sounds very interesting. So what I am reading now is a book called Park Avenue by Renée Ahdieh. I am just obsessed with this book. It is so much fun. So it's a story about Giaae. She's the main character, and she is this high-powered lawyer in New York City. She's very successful, very ambitious. She's also the daughter of Korean immigrants who run a bodega. So at her law firm, she is up for partner, and she's given the chance to work with some new clients, and it is the Park family. And they are super wealthy. They're the owners of a Korean skincare brand. And it's really the three adult siblings who are involved in this lawsuit with their father because he basically wants to take all their money and all their inheritance from them. So Giaae is hired to like help them with this, and also their mother is very sick, so it feels like very urgent. And what's interesting about it is that it is contemporary fiction, but it reads kind of like a mystery thriller. Like Giaae is traveling all over the world. She's uncovering secrets. She's discovering financial documents. Maybe people are getting killed. So there's a lot of like drama and intrigue. And then it's also a little bit of a romance as she meets the house manager for the Park family, and sparks are flying a little bit there. It's definitely a book about rich people. Like, there's a lot of yachts and sports cars and fine dining and couture clothing, that kind of thing. Giaae, the main character, is obsessed with Birkin bags, so she talks about Birkin bags like all the time. But it's just so much fun. It's, as I said, it's really fast-paced. It's entertaining. It's like, you know, I'm like halfway through, but I feel like I'm gonna finish it in the next day because it's so much fun. So yeah, it's Park Avenue by Renée, Ahdieh. So what are you reading next?
All right, so what I am reading next is I'll Love You Forever by Giaae Kwon. So I picked up this book because I was following Giaae Kwon's newsletter for, I think, about 5 years. I followed her because she's a culture writer, and she writes these really lovely essays that are both about fine dining, food review, recipes, and also just about being a person. Like, the one that I like to go to and talk about is she wrote this really lovely essay about dining solo at Momofuku. And it is kind of about how Momofuku doesn't really have options for solo dining, and that it ended up being about sort of personal alienation and like finding connection with people in sort of a time that's really difficult to do that in, and also body image and the image you present to other people. Which, lovely, if you want to read an essay by her that is not about the subject of I'll Love You Forever, that's the one I recommend. However, she apparently has put out this essay collection about K-pop fandom. And I am not in K-pop fandom, but oh boy, do I like to read about culture.
That was a question I had because I'm not a K-pop fan, but I'm wondering if I might like this anyway.
Right. Honestly, I think so. I really like the way she writes about culture. It feels very approachable, even if it's not something that you can necessarily connect to. For example, I don't live near any of the locations of restaurants she wrote about, and I still was following it because I think that they are about sort of an aspect of culture and fandom that is really easy to connect to if you have ever liked something. And yeah, so she was a K-pop fan in her youth. She found a lot of support in online K-pop forum communities, and this is just a collection of essays about that I am really looking forward to getting into because I just think her sensibility about that kind of thing is fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's I'll Love You Forever by Giaae Kwon.
Great. So what I am reading next is The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar. And this is a fantasy novella. As you can see, it's very short. And it's interesting because it is essentially a fairy tale, and it's rare to see like modern published fairy tales that kind of have the feel of a classic one. But this one definitely has a more feminist spin to it than you might find in some of the older fairy tales. So it's really a story about sisterhood. So it takes place in the village of Thistleford, which is a fictional place in England. And these two sisters, Isabel and Esther, they're just best friends. There are things that they sing together, and their singing has magical qualities. And as they're getting older, they're thinking about relationships and marriage. And the man who owns the farm next door becomes interested in one of the sisters, but he's not a very good guy, and she's not interested in him. Besides, she's totally in love with the ethereal Rin. And that's kind of where the drama picks up. So it also has illustrations, which once again is kind of like rare to see, and it is, you know, an adult book. But it's really, it just seems like a book that's going to transport me to a whole different place. The author, Amal El-Mohtar, had co-written a book called This Is How You Lose the Time War a few years ago that is very popular with library staff. So I was excited to pick this one up, and I am very excited to dive into it. It is The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar. And that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of What You're Reading. Remember to like and subscribe, and all the books that we talked about will be linked in the show notes. Please tell us in the comments what you think about them, and we'll see you next time. Bye.